Welcome, and we're happy to see all of you. We're so excited to have our second Showcase General Meeting. So today you'll be hearing from rounds 2 and 4 from our wonderful regional partners and hear a little bit about their work. Just like our last meeting, they've been asked to share their one big idea. So if you would like to hear more about their work, which there is lots and lots more than what they're sharing today, please feel free to contact them. They'll be putting information in the chat. If you have questions for them, please put those in the chat. Like all of our meetings, we'll collect all of your questions and queries and send a follow-up document in a couple weeks after our meeting with all the information that was shared as well. To get started, we asked last meeting for a fun icebreaker, but our chat wasn't up and running right at the beginning. So we're going to redo our icebreaker, and we would like all of you to think about what your favorite place to visit is in Georgia. So maybe if you're going somewhere fun for the holidays, if it's, I don't know, woods in your backyard, it can be something big, some big tourist attraction. It can be something small, like your favorite, I don't know, craft store near your neighborhood, whatever you like. But if you would put that in the chat, it's a fun little thing that we'll make a word cloud out of and just promote all the different wonderful places in our state. So I also wanted to share, we're doing a fun campaign to kick off the holidays. A lot of our board members have been sharing literature, as well as many of you, around how kindness really helps the person that's spreading kindness as well as those that are receiving it. So for the holidays, we decided to do a kindness challenge. Can you go to the next slide? And here is, oops, that's me. Here's the information. So if you can do something kind in the next few weeks, we would love to promote just being kind to one another. So it can be something little, it can be buying coffee for a coworker, or it can be something big, doing a giant coat drive for people experiencing homelessness. Whatever your act of kindness is, we ask that you just use the hashtag, and we hope that it'll spider web across the state and maybe even nation. And it can be from your organization too. So I know this work relies on kindness, really. So if your organization already has different things planned, please just use that hashtag, and we would love to share the work that you're doing that way as well. So I'm very excited to kick things off. Again, thank you to all of our partners sharing. We have over 900 partners and counting, and we're in over 120 counties now. So we're super excited to hear from more of them today. First off, we're going to hear from Christina Lennon. She's the Chief Strategy and Innovation Officer at Wellroot Family Services, and she's going to talk about Resilient North Georgia and their Reaching Teens initiative. Welcome, Christina.
Great. Thank you. Thanks for having me here this morning. Again, I'm with Wellroot Family Services and, of course, Resilient Georgia. We're in our first year of partnership with Resilient Georgia. And I want to thank Lynn Patillo and Emily Ann and Audrey for a lot of guidance this first year. And also some fellow cohorts. So Elijah Miranda from Vashti was very helpful, as were the team at Resilient Middle Georgia. So that really allowed us to get to work quickly. Resilient, if you go to the next slide, Resilient Georgia serves 13 counties in North Georgia, which is a beautiful part of the state. We, the hub, the economic and population hub for that area or for our region is Hall County, and specifically Gainesville. So it really made a lot of sense for that to be our hub as well this first year. And the timing of us becoming a coalition, it just couldn't have been more perfect. Wellroot is a 150-year-old organization that has its roots in child welfare, but began investing heavily in family preservation and resiliency just over the last couple of years. And at the same time, Hall County has come together with leaders from across sectors to really assess community needs, rising to the top, mental and behavioral health services, education, and United Way, Family Connections did a lot of that work. It's just phenomenal work. And it allowed us to come in and really bolster a foundation that had already been laid and get to work really quickly. So if you'll move to the next slide. This is a sampling of who is Resilient North Georgia. These are the partners that we've worked with over this year to do our work, and a huge shout out to Family Connections. I've noticed in other presentations, other cohorts have said it's not possible without Family Connections, and I completely agree. They have been absolutely wonderful across the region and in each county. So thank you so much for that. If you'll go to the next slide. When you set out to do this work, creating a more resilient community, gosh, it's kind of like staring at an iceberg. You don't really know where to start. So I included this slide just to kind of show where we started. We began to chip away at the iceberg by assessing 13 counties for their greatest needs, the trainings that they really wanted to see, and also who was really ready, had the capacity and was ready to really get started. And when we did that, we then began to build a foundation of trainers. So we certified several trainers this year, both within WellRoot, but also at Gainesville City Schools and Family Connections, to kind of create more sustainability in the community. So it didn't all just rely on us. We also made sure that Spanish and English trainers were being certified. So as we were doing all of this work and piloting training, if you'll go to the next slide, we really saw a need for Connections Matter, Community Resiliency Model, and Positive Parenting Program, which we call Triple P. So we thought we would start with those. And as we saw who was interested, folks who worked with adolescents really rose to the top. Hall County at the time was struggling with truancy rates in schools. Most of the parents that signed up for Triple P had adolescents. We were working heavily with the CHINS panel with juvenile courts, and most of those children were adolescents. And so we saw that there was a real need for skills and training around supporting and serving adolescents. So at this point, I want to stop and ask you all a question. What words or phrases do you often hear associated when people talk about teens? What comes to mind when people talk about those teenage years?
Hard.
Yeah. Rebellious, angst, frustration, difficult, challenging. Yeah, in general, there's kind of a rolling of the eyes, right? And parents are told they will survive it. There's a negative connotation. And so we really, and I think for teens, it's, as I look back on my life, that was a very difficult period. So we wanted to kind of take and reframe the work with this age group. And we embraced a model called Reaching Teens. So, Reaching Teens is an approach that curates the best in strength-based language, positive youth development, and trauma-informed practices to offer practical skills in serving and interacting with youth. It was created by Dr. Ginsberg, Dr. Ken Ginsberg, who's a pediatrician with more than 30 years of experience serving adolescents who've experienced trauma, especially homeless youth. So Reaching Teens moves beyond theory and really gives you practical tips. It's kind of a how-to guide for helping adults stop lecturing, because that doesn't work, right? And things like leading conversations and leading questions for an adolescent to come to the same conclusions, right? It's more of a conversation than a lecture. It helps us as adults realize that teens are an expert in their own lives, and we have to honor that and give that a place, right? It recognizes that sometimes the qualities in a teen, like being an empath or having a protective brain, can be their greatest strengths in adulthood, but are often challenges in adolescence. So how do we work through that? Managing that can be a challenge. It even gets into things like language. So we were talking to folks about, instead of saying, oh, you know, I understand, I get it, say things like, help me understand. When a youth says something like, hey, Mr. Smith, I just got an A on this exam. Instead of saying great job, say, I'm really glad you shared that with me. So that when the youth has bad news to share, they feel like that they can come to you too, right? Just different things like that. Even body language, that interpreting it so that you know kind of how you need to react to that body language in order to make sure they understand that you're a safe place. All of these very practical tips. And we believe that if we get really good at this, we can create a community where every teen can recognize one person, at least one person, that's a caring adult in their lives. So we feel that that would be very powerful. Next slide. So once we realized this was a need and we found the model and everybody in the community was excited about the model, we decided to host a 2-day symposium. Ken Ginsberg came down. And the first day, we were fortunate enough to be able to train every employee in Gainesville City Schools. And so that's a picture right there of us at a mega church and training all of these folks. In the morning, they were trained, and in the afternoon, student services got a whole afternoon of kind of implementing this across the school system. The second day, we brought in regional service providers, and everybody across the region were represented. We had 10 counties of the 13 represented, and it was folks like DFACS, juvenile courts, CASA, universities, healthcare systems, churches. And as you can see, the response was really good. It was a great 2 days, but we recognized that this inspirational event, Ken is a great presenter, is not going to change the world. So the next step in this, the next stage, is to create a community-wide implementation kind of learning collaborative, which we've created, and we'll kick off through 2023, really looking at how you implement this across an organization and across a community. We've already got several of those folks kind of engaged, so we're excited about that. And we have done this at WellRoot. So at WellRoot, we've spent the last full year implementing reaching teens across our organization. We found that it's really changed the culture. Strength-based language, positive intent has affected how we deal with adolescents, but really just how we deal with everybody. It's been wonderful. So next slide, please. So this is kind of what our year looked like. Reaching Teens was the wonderful grand finale, but we trained over 1,500 people. We had a few surprises. So as you can see, there's a map of the counties we trained. There were a lot of folks from Metro Atlanta or from the Metro region that traveled up to receive these trainings. So our impact was a little broader than we expected. And the other thing that really amazed us was how these trainings and these interactions with Resilient Georgia were bridges to our other family preservation programs like Healthy Families and Functional Family Therapy. It felt really like a tapestry had begun to be woven where each training and each partner and each program created a little bit of color and a little bit of texture, and we've seen it grow over the year. It's just been a lot of fun. And so if you, next slide, if you have questions about community resiliency model or reaching teens or Triple P, we'd love to share more of our experience in kind of implementing those, and we'd love to collaborate with you. So get in touch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christina. Next, we are going to hear from South Georgia, so Resilient Southwest Georgia and Albany. And we're going to hear from Philip Gentry, who's the special projects manager at the United Way of Southwest Georgia. He's going to talk about their program, Start with Hello and Say Something. Philip.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. So like you said, my name is Philip Gentry. I'm the special projects manager here at United Way of Southwest Georgia. And we are the backbone agency for the Resilient Southwest Georgia coalition based out of Albany. Thank you. So at United Way of Southwest Georgia, we believe that everyone deserves the opportunity to have a good life. which is typically or simply measured by a quality education that leads to a stable job, enough income to support a family through retirement, and good health. Because of this, you'll find that quite a bit, if not all, of the work that we are focused on revolves around the building blocks of a good life, which is education, income, and health. And so, of course, one of the vehicles that we are using to accomplish this goal is our Resilient Southwest Georgia initiative. The initiative came at the perfect time in 2020 because it provided an opportunity for like-minded organizations to join a coalition dedicated to a common goal when the need was at an all-time high as a result of the pandemic. And it also created an opportunity to break some of those continuous cycles of working in silos taking place here in Southwest Georgia. And while forming and even maintaining coalitions, and I know you all know this firsthand, certainly comes with its own unique set of challenges. We also have quite a bit to be proud of, and that comes in the form of how we engage and empower our local youth. Next slide, please. And so engaging and empowering our youth. And so you might ask, how exactly are you all doing that? But before I go into detail about our initiatives, I would like to just pose just a simple question. What do you think teens want from adults? And you can jot those down in the chat. Thank you, Audrey. And so when we actually pose this question or similar questions, a series of similar questions to the youth that we engage on a regular basis, the responses were many, but when we attempted to boil them down and categorize them, most fell under the categories of autonomy, so wanting to the opportunity to self-govern themselves, and the need for a trusted adult. So they recognize the value of having dependable grown-ups in their lives. And so what that says to me is that there's a duality between wanting to have their voices heard or wanting to their independence, but also recognizing the value or the need, the necessity, if you will, of having mentors or advisors or someone that they can just feel open to talking to. So as a coalition, we ventured out to find ways that we could either create these opportunities or projects for our local youth, or even incorporate these findings into existing projects that are already available to the youth in our community. And so the projects that you see listed here on the slide are actually the results of this decision. And it's even more interesting to me, at least, that because these three separate initiatives are somewhat of a hybrid of what we set out to do. And what I mean by that is that the first project here, Courageous Conversations, it was already in existence with the Albany Museum of Art. However, we were able to bring them into our coalition, and through our network of resources, the project is now expanding. The second project here, Youth United Teen Mental Health Coalition. While teen mental health coalitions is a fairly new concept here in Southwest Georgia, in the counties that we serve, the design of the program was heavily influenced, I might say, by the work already done in Resilient East Georgia Coalition. So thank you to you all for that help. And then we have the Stop School Violence Project, which is one that we essentially designed on our own. We applied for the grant through the DOJ. And long story short, each project provides an opportunity for youth to serve on an advisory board, make decisions on their own, and interact with adults who have had the opportunity to prove that they can be trusted. Next slide, please. And so just quickly, I would like to highlight our Courageous Conversations About Race initiative. During these discussions that are facilitated by university professors, racial dialogue is placed at the center by using works of art as a catalyst toward a deeper understanding of the intersection of racial identity, politics, social and economic and educational outcomes in America. Our coalition is now in its third year of offering this initiative by way of the Albany Museum of Art. And as of this year, we have expanded to include local high schools, colleges, teachers, regional leadership, and the community at large. In fact, if you find yourself in the Albany area around January 13th, let me follow up about that date, but around January 13th, we'll be having our next session, and we would like to invite you all to experience it. We focus on college experiences college experiences specifically in Southwest Georgia. Through this initiative, over 200 students from local school systems and local universities in the Southwest region have been in attendance and are able to gain the tools and knowledge necessary to engage in productive race and equity conversations across our area. On the slide here, we have a few quotes from high school students who have attended the session this year. I know I don't have time to read through them, so I would encourage you to screenshot it and just double back to it as time permits. Next slide, please. And so, perfect partnership. Before I get into this, I have another question that I want to ask, and it's a simple poll question, so it should be yes or no. But I want to ask, is violence a current concern for your local school districts? Thank you, Audrey. So I know I don't have much time left, but I wanted to really quickly share with you something that our coalition is really excited about. In January, our Stop School Violence project that I spoke about a couple slides back, or last slide, will partner with Sandy Hook Promise to strengthen our nonviolence initiative in Dougherty and Terrell County schools by focusing on 8 schools, 3 elementary, 3 middle schools, and 2 high schools. Our coalition is, we're really proud for this to be Sandy Hook Promise's initial entry into working in the state of Georgia. And I can't wait to be able to share some of the results of this partnership here in the upcoming year. I hope you all are familiar with Sandy Hook Promise, because I know I don't have time to elaborate on their significance, and it will take a great deal of time to do so. But there's just one thing that I do want to point out, and I feel it is important because this came up a lot when we first introduced the idea of the partnership to certain members of our own coalition. And that is that there seems to be a misconception that Sandy Hook Promise only focuses on gun violence, when that's just not the case. And so here on the slide, we have our pilot programming, which has changed from when I initially submitted the proposal to Resilient Georgia. So what we'll be focusing on is the Safe Promise Club and Start with Hello. Next slide, please. And so the Safe Promise Club that we'll be working with is a student leadership initiative of Sandy Hook Promise, and it serves that need that we were looking forward to have, or to give autonomy to students to be able to shape or have their voices heard, or shape the project that they're working on. And the focus are these 4 ideals mentioned here that I'll just let you all glance at. I don't want to take much time. And then we have Start with Hello. And Start with Hello is a interesting project because it teaches empathy and empowers students to end social isolation by following 3 easy steps, and those steps are here. And so the program is simply, or exactly what it says, Start with Hello. Is how to introduce yourself, how to make someone feel like they are not alone, simply by starting with hello. And those steps are listed there. Next slide, please. And so just to wrap up this presentation and drive home the need for what I feel is the need for this partnership, in response to a fairly recent incident that took place in one of our county schools here, a parent was quoted in the local news as saying that her son, and I don't have the whole quote, I just wanted to take this one bit, that her son often keeps his head down and is scared for his safety on a normal day of school. And that's a Dougherty County student. The mother of Dougherty, Ms. Heather is the mother of a Dougherty County student. So I think, as I wrap up, I just wanted to mention that, or I just wanted to leave this with you as saying that there is a need for these type of programs, and I want to congratulate everyone on the work that they're doing in their individual respective communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Philip. I know a lot of you on the call were able to attend the Georgia Grantmakers Association meeting a couple weeks ago, and some of the students from Phillips region and the Courageous Conversation Project attended, and we were just so blown away by their words and their work, and we're very grateful, Philip. And I love this program too. Like I've heard from family members when I was a teacher, which was several years ago now, I heard from the students how hard it is to make friends, and I love with just say hello. So next, we're going to hear a little bit more about fostering authentic partnerships. Resilient Communities of Southeast Georgia is one of our newest coalitions, and we're going to hear about their initiative called Connecting the Dots from Janelle Harvey, the United Way of Coastal Georgia's Director of Community Impacts. Janelle?
I had been telling myself all morning to unmute myself when it was time. Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing well, and happy holidays to everybody. We are just so fortunate to be a part of Resilient Georgia's, I'll just say, movement at this point. We have been looking, as United Way, we have been looking for opportunities like this so that we could expand the impact that we have in our community. And this was exactly what we needed to get behind. It was a no-brainer for our staff, our board, and our partners. But it has been a year of learning and building partnerships. Some were existing and having to strengthen those. Others were new and trying to get to know people. And we also feel very, very fortunate that we're part of cohort number 3, cohort number 4. So we get to learn from the experiences of others that are 2 years into their work with Resilient Georgia. So that's been a great benefit to us. But we wanted to create a sustainable initiative that was something that was needed in our community and that would grow over time. And we wanted to set it up right from the very beginning. And so we brought in a consultant to help guide us through that implementation planning process. We felt at United Way that it was really important that this was a community-wide initiative and not something that was even remotely seen as being something that United Way was driving alone. And so it was helpful to have somebody from outside of the community to come in and just be the conductor of these discussions. And ultimately, what we came out of was our mission is to create a resilient and responsive community with economic, social, and emotional supports for everybody. And we have done that a lot through, again, building relationships and partnerships and engaging organizations that have not been familiar with the work of United Way and trying to familiarize them with it. But a lot of our year has been spent doing something that keep finding ourselves saying repeatedly now, connecting the dots. We used to have a very close-knit community of nonprofits here, and I'm sure everybody is feeling this, over the last 2 years, it has just been, people are needing that connection again. People have changed jobs, they've gone to different organizations, services have changed, the way that they deliver services has changed. And so we were hearing very clearly, we just need to know what's happening, who's doing what now, and who do I need to reach out to, and how can I make this accessible for my clients? And then we also had a very timely issue of increased homelessness in our community. As our community is growing, so is the homeless population, and those services are not available, readily available for them. And we have limited capacity to serve in a smaller community. And so there's this growing need to create this coordinated system of care and services that are available to the increasing homeless population. So that's been what our main focus has been for the last year. But our strategic goals are to increase the awareness and the effects of trauma. And a lot of that is increasing people's understanding of what trauma is, that it's not just somebody who has returned from a war with PTSD. It's not somebody who has experienced a horrific car accident or domestic violence. It can be some of those subtle effects of exposure to toxic stress over a lengthy period of time, like being homeless, or being a child and not knowing where your next meal is coming from. We wanted to work to reduce the incidence and the impact of trauma. So making sure that we are advocating for and providing services that are addressing those who have experienced trauma, as well as trying to get in front of it and reduce it. And then building resiliency. I think Lizanne Roberts said it best on a call that we were on the other day, in that if we can't take care of our own social and emotional well-being, then we're not going to be able to serve those around us. And we want to create those skills within our community residents. We have really focused a lot on helping people to understand the broad definition of trauma and promoting trauma-informed practices, specifically through advocating for the Handle with Care program, which we're just really excited about. And then advocating for systemic change and policy changes. We truly believe that social services should be part of the infrastructure of a community, and ours is lacking in that right now. So if you could go to the next slide. Okay, so we started off by engaging people and gaining support with community organizations, ranging from the school systems to the healthcare systems to local and state government, the judicial and law enforcement. That was the area where we were the most uncertain, and yet have had so much success with them. It's been really rewarding. We've engaged elected officials, daycares, housing, employment. We're really focusing on gaining access to more of the workforce so that we can help employers become more trauma informed in their workplaces. And then we started developing this collective impact plan, and that has taken quite a bit of time. Over the course of 6 months, we had 3 large planning meetings that engaged more than 30 stakeholder organizations, and then we broke them into work groups to specifically work on the topics of training, awareness, and marketing. How can we get the message out? Relationship building within the community. And those have been really very successful with our organizations. We've had great engagement with the local organizations, and they've gotten behind this 100%. And then one of the things that is our most recent accomplishment is we've been building out a digital toolkit to make it easy for partners to push out the same messaging to the community so that we're all consistent in our messaging, and it makes it easy for them. We can all get the information out if we want to schedule a specific timeline of the advertisements or the information going out. We can coordinate that effectively. And so that has been our most recent accomplishment. And if you see down at the bottom on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see our new logo, which if you look at it right in the middle, you can see the R and the C for resilient communities. We have spent a lot of time advocating for and secured services from Kate's Club, which is a nonprofit that you're probably all familiar with, but they focus their services on providing bereavement services to children and youth who have lost a primary caregiver. So we're very, very excited about that. We provided community resiliency model training in 6 of our counties, reaching more than 60 individuals at this point. That has been focused on Head Start staff, and the response has been tremendously positive. So we're very, very excited about that. We've hosted a focus group with Head Start on recruitment and retention issues, because they as everybody is, they are struggling with workforce and being able to retain staff. Ours is short enough that they're not able to open a wide number of their programs. And so we really wanted to get in and try to understand what the organization could do better to support them and engage them. We presented with Emily Ann at the Association for County Commissioners of Georgia at their convention back in April, and talked about the work that we were engaging in. And we've been able to align our evaluation goals and objective with the Region 12 Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention Plan, which is allowing another partner agency to build off of the work that we are doing. And most recently, we sponsored a Wayne County Chamber of Commerce State of Wellness Luncheon, which was looking at mental health resources and services and needs in the Wayne County community. Next slide. The question that I have for you is, please tell me 3 words that come to your mind when you think of the word community. That was, in our minds, that was one of the easiest concepts, and yet that was, in our working groups, that was one of the most diverse definitions that we came up with, because so many people had different perspectives of what a community is, whether it's the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, or is it a wider scope of a regional community, or if it is related to the community of people that you relate to the most. And so that was very interesting for us. And when we talk about connecting the dots, one of the things that has come out of this, and this is a perfect example of what we've been able to do, is bringing partners together that weren't previously collaborating in any real meaningful manner, and bringing them together to use established programming that they were already engaging in, so they didn't have to come up with anything new. But by working together, they've been able to expand access to the programming and create an increased impact in our community. And so we partnered with Safe Harbor Children's Shelter, the YMCA of Coastal Georgia, and Coastal Coalition for Children, and they provide the Healthy Families programming in our communities. And Safe Harbor had been already providing family preservation services through the Nurturing Parenting program. All of those programs were geared directly toward parents that were already in the system and trying to prevent episodes of future abuse and neglect, and teaching them more positive parenting skills and more appropriate ways of engaging and supporting their children. By bringing them together, we've been able to expand that programming out into the community. And so it's allowing them to get ahead of families before they enter into the system. And so Safe Harbor is providing the staffing to provide the Nurturing Parenting program. YMCA is providing the location, the space to be able to host the trainings with the parents, which they are doing both individual and small group instruction with them. YMCA is also providing resilience building activities for the kids. We have a pool here, and they're providing swim lessons, which water safety is a huge issue being on the coast. And so they're providing all kinds of activities that are focused on building the skills and the self-esteem and the safety of the children in our community. They're also providing behavioral intervention services. So if a family that is engaged in the program has a need at home, if there's a behavioral issue at home with either the children that are in the program or an older child, they have a behavior intervention specialist that can go in and work with the families in the home. Coastal Coalition is providing early intervention services to the kids and the parents in the home. So reinforcing the concepts that they're learning in the Nurturing Parenting program through the Healthy Families program in the home. So by doing this, it's allowed them to expand access throughout the entire community. It is increasing the success of the Safe Harbor programming because it's broadening the range of the clients that they're serving. And Family Connection, or a Coastal Coalition for Children with their Healthy Families program, they were searching for increased referrals for early intervention services. And so this is allowing them to have access to that. We just in the last 2 weeks were notified that we were a recipient of the DeKalb Community Transformation Grant for this programming. So we're very, very excited about embarking on this. Our next steps over the coming year is to continue to advocate for increased state funding for mental health services. We are not an urban, technically by some measures, Glenn County is considered an urban area. However, most of our surrounding counties are all considered rural communities. And the majority of the state mental health resources get geared toward the metro areas, with Savannah being the closest one for us, which is about an hour outside of where we are at. So we'll be continuing to advocate for increased resources to be directed into these communities. We're working on an increased collaboration with the College of Coastal Georgia to provide not just one trauma-informed training for first responders, but to provide a series of trauma-informed trainings that give them everything from mandated reporter training to mental health intervention training. And then we are integrating the community resiliency model training into something that is called CERT training. For those of you that aren't familiar with it, CERT is the Community Emergency Response Team. That allows us to bring in just local residents. This is appropriate training for anybody who is not a first responder, and it's how to support and help in the event of an unexpected crisis or incident in the community. How do you help your neighbor? Who do you contact? What steps do you need to take? And what structure is already in place to help? Being a community on the coast, hurricanes are an annual experience for us, or at least the threat of hurricanes. And so we have, over the last 7 years, really increased our community's readiness to respond to those incidents. And this allows us to partner with our county municipality and support their emergency management services and integrating trauma-informed training into some of the emergency response training. So we're very excited about that. And in the most upcoming of our next steps is going to be hosting community resiliency model training for the entire state of Georgia United Way's CEOs and impact staff. We're very, very excited about that. We were looking at how we could integrate that into our community investment process. And I have a monthly call with our impact leads, and they are interested in going through that training and integrating it into many of their investment processes as well. So that training is going to be coming up at the very beginning of February. So we're very, very excited about that. Okay, any questions for me?
Thank you, Janelle. Yes, if you have questions for Janelle, drop them in the chat and we will get those back in the follow-up document. And I'm super excited about the community resiliency model training coming up for all the United Ways. That's awesome. Next, we are going to hear from Building a Region of Resilience, Northwest Georgia. The Family Connection Partnership out there has done such a wonderful job working together and developing trauma-informed resources and getting the work out there. Today, we'll be hearing from Laura Beth Newsom, who's the coordinator for Walker County Family Connection, and she's going to be talking about developing trauma and poverty-informed champions. Laura Beth.
Thank you, Emily Ann. Good morning, everyone. As she said, we are the Building a Region of Resilience of Northwest Georgia. It is comprised of 14 Georgia Family Connection Collaboratives, which is Region 1. And we're in the business of working collaboratively to improve life outcomes for children and families in our areas. So our initiative is designed to increase awareness and capacity to create and influence trauma and poverty-informed systems change. And we've approached this work to impact and influence change at multiple levels. So next slide, please. So next slide. There we go. Thank you. This brings us to our first question for the group. So if you could think about this for just a second. To create lasting change, which group requires the most attention, do you think? Do you think it's individuals, which are the leaders, professionals, and caregivers, or is it collaboratives, organizations, or the community at large? So next slide. So do you think it's individuals, collaboratives, or the community at large? Take just a second and answer that question. Lots of different answers coming in. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So the first group we're going to talk about is the community at large. And I'm still watching them come in. I'm sorry, I was watching everybody's comments. So the community at large, we primarily raise awareness. So the kind that hopefully drives support for our efforts and provide concrete supports in times of need, which help move families out of crisis so that we can support them long-term. So if you take a look at our things that have been going on, we've done several different things. We've done documentary screenings of multiple documentaries, including Angst, Resilience, Broken Places, Paper Tigers. We've also sponsored the TBRI Hope for the Journey Conference in partnership with Restoration Rome, and lots of local coalitions and task force to help with mental health, suicide prevention, homelessness, and substance abuse. Resource distribution is huge in our region. We've done some great things. We've resourced food, have care closets set up in schools, clothing closets, backpack feeding programs, school supplies, book distribution, benevolence for utility and rent support, holidays, as well as information sharing through our website, social media, and community events. But when you look at those numbers, I'd just like for you, you look at how many books and educational resources, that's 4,695 students in 6 different counties were served through book resources. And we had 1,297 individuals and families in 4 counties who were given coats. Lots of things going on. Food distribution, holiday meal and supply programs were implemented in 10 counties for 16,491 families. So next slide, please. So the next we'll talk about collaborative and partner organizations. I didn't mean for my face to be up there that large, so I apologize. But at this level, we provide collaborative awareness and capacity building activities, as well as direct services to families and children. We have hosted civic dinners in each county for 2 years in a row, and we primarily use the CAMPP aligned questions created by DFACS. We also have strategy teams moving forward work locally in collaboratives. We have parent advisory councils that support our parents and build leadership capacity within the groups. And the inclusion of trauma and or poverty-informed activities in collaborative annual plans. So all of us have worked that into our plan to work on that. And then we have aligned with best practices in poverty and trauma. We've done several programs and services, including Teen Maze, Connections Matter, Darkness to Light, Standards of Quality for Strengthening Families. And this year, we're super excited for, we'll host 5 multi-county events, which will be spread across our region, where we will map the needs of families to the systems, programs, and services that meet those needs, and discuss the barriers and challenges that impede the family stability and success. Then we will explore the types of change, programs, policies, and systems that are needed to address those challenges. So we hope, put a little plug in there, we hope you guys will join us for one of those 5 multi-county events. We'll share that information, but that's coming up in the first quarter of 2023. So you can also learn more about the activities through our priority map, which I believe someone is going to graciously share in the chat box. So we'd love for you to take a look at that. So next slide, please, which brings us to our big idea. We believe that people with great passion can make the impossible happen. We believe that individuals are where our greatest return on investment is, in building the understanding and capacity of our leaders, caring professionals, frontline staff, and caregivers. So we believe that all these things are important and positively impact our children and families. So anyone who's ever listened to Dr. Donna Beagle has heard her say that people who make it out of the crisis of poverty rarely attribute their success to a program or service. They typically cite an individual who saw, heard, or valued them. And I just think about this. It's just so important to hear the people that we work with. We believe this is where our greatest return on investment is, building and understanding the capacity of our leaders, caring professionals, and frontline staff. So we know they can't pour into others from an empty cup. So we pour into them with knowledge and skills so they can continue to help others. Next slide, please. And how we do that, we've had the opportunity to provide one-on-one workshops on poverty and trauma. And our highlight has been, and I'm very thankful, this is in my home county. I was able to educate about 2,300 of the Walker County school staff and administrators this past year on Trauma 101. And so it was about 750 teachers, and the work is continuing this year. We've launched Poverty 101 as well as Compassion Fatigue. And those models are on our website that you can, there are self-guided, but we did these in group settings. But we've continued that work, and hopefully that's spreading out to other counties in our area. But we also implemented 3 book studies, which were What Happened to You, The Body Keeps the Score, and See Poverty Be the Difference. So those were great studies, and we had great participation across the region. And we had parenting trainings, parent cafes, parent advisory councils to increase understanding of stages of development for social, emotional competence of kiddos, and help build support networks for these parents and kinship care providers. Next slide, please. So the next I'm going to talk about is Be Your Own Lifesavers. So we hope these activities build capacity and provide compassionate support to reduce compassion fatigue and burnout, which we're seeing across the region, the state, everywhere you turn. So our big idea is a self-guided initiative called Be Your Own Lifesavers. This began through a partnership with the Department of Education, the RESA's Wraparound Service, and PBIS coordinators for our region, and the Rome Floyd Commission on Children and Youth, Georgia Hope, and Walker County Schools. Originally, we worked together to provide compassion fatigue training to the school admin in our region to encourage them to incorporate self-care activities for their staff. Although we didn't get much traction on the training, the activity created us to raise awareness, and buy-in from the training did get the traction. So last October, we began pushing out monthly self-care videos through YouTube, and we directed them towards teachers and counselors as well as school admin staff. But each video had a self-care tip that aligns with a acronym. Oh, you can see them. Sorry, I forget you can see them. So silencing your mind, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. So every month we drew 4 names for a gift card, and the winning staff could use it to pamper themselves. So this year we have opened that back up, because we realize caring professionals are also struggling with compassion fatigue, not just our teaching realm, but now everyone who's in service industry is really burned out. So we were pushing out the videos through all of our social media, collaborative communications, and even showing the videos in our board meetings, strategy teams, and collaborative meetings to get participation. Each month, we have 10 winners that get a $25 gift card. So if you're not watching those videos, it will be a great opportunity for you to do that. So I know I'm getting short on time. So if you'll go to the next slide. So as I said, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself first. So, and that's very hard for many of us. So our final question is, what self-care activity will you commit to today to combat your own compassion fatigue? This is something, again, that's very real, and we want you guys to take care of yourself so you can pour into others. So thank you, Emily Ann, for having us. And thank you for all you do for us.
Thank you. I was busy trying to figure out what I could write.
Well, and that's what I said, I forget that it's on the screen. So
that was great. Thank you so much, Laura Beth. Next, we're going to hear a little bit about communities and regions that are working across sectors. And I hope if you're looking at the agenda, I hope you, well, in the screen, appreciate all of the wonderful quotes that Audrey put together. They've been inspiring to me. So now we're going to hear from Waycross Area Resilient Georgia Partnership. Heather Flowers is the Family Justice Center site coordinator at the Magnolia House Youth Center, and she's going to be talking about partnering with first responders. So Heather.
Hey, good morning. Good morning, everyone. First off, I want to just say thank you to Lynn Patello, Audrey, and Emily for actually giving us this opportunity to bring changes to our rural community and for it to make a positive change, I should say. The Justice Center is an initiative that we have received in our area, and I know that with Resilient Georgia, it would not be possible for us to do all the things that we have in our training aspects, and also with our community. So thank you for that. Our goals down here, as you can see, I'm not going to go through and actually read all of the stuff to you. I'm just going to kind of highlight the information. So with our Family Justice Center, I just want to go ahead and show you that it will be the ruralest family justice center in the United States. Of course, there's some in the other countries, but we'll focus on the ones that's in the United States. We will cover 6 counties. Our population for those 6 counties, of course, is 145,000 individuals. However, where the actual Justice Center will sit is in Ware County. That is 36,033 people. So that is a very rural location. We have a lot of land coverage, but however, we have a small amount of people compared to that land coverage. During 2021, our target areas on that Justice Center is DV, which is domestic violence and sexual assault, child advocacy, and elderly abuse. But with Resilient Georgia, partner with them, it's extended that process. So for the training aspects of it, we've extended out to even reaching, through the school systems, reaching through the sectors that we work with, the collaborative partners. So any child, of course, age 0 to 26, any child that we are working with that in their needs of suicide prevention, bullying awareness. We have a lot of different programs. So with that being said, in 2021, the numbers of the clients that would served would have been 1,464 between sexual assault and DV. However, for Resilient Georgia, because of the children, the partners, and collaborative partners that we serve, the families, the parents, has been over 16,000 plus that number that we've been able to reach this year through awareness, training, and prevention education. So we've had over 30 events throughout the year for this. Through this time, we've been able to work with being able to address the substance abuse issues that we have in this area. We've also been able to hit on the suicide prevention aspects of it. We had several big events with Let's Talk About It that allowed us that opportunity to go out into the school systems. We had a lot of great response back from that. But one of the biggest things I want to discuss with you, and I know that this is probably a good time for me to ask the question to you, is what is a major challenge that law enforcement and youth face when interacting with each other? So I think that's the question that would lead us to our next slide. So if you can just put it in the chat, if you want to just enter the information there. And looking at them, trust is one of the factors, the lack of the connection between the two. And you are correct on that. That's one of the things that we've seen, and talking to different children, different ones out there, talking to Unison Behavioral Health, trying to figure out what the needs, their needs are, so that we make sure that when we're putting these programs together, that we know what to bring to the table. We have a lot of issues going on with the gang relations here in our community. The numbers has gotten higher in our community, and then of course when you put all that together, that raises the domestic violence, that raises sexual assault. There's a lot of things that go along with that. So these children that we serve are subject to so much more now than what they may not have been subject to years ago or we have heard about. So one of the things that we have done with law enforcement is why not educate them? Why not make sure that they understand how to handle the trauma and handle the children when they are the first ones on the scene? Because as we all know, whatever phone call is made, they're the first ones to the scene. The worst thing that can happen is to re-traumatize when they get there and not handle those children with care, not handle them with, with knowing how to move to the next step and who to call, who to come in there. So one of the things that we've done, we've actually created the pocket resources for all of them. We've given out that information to all of our first responders in all 6 counties to make sure that they have their resources, so they'll know what entities that they can call and contact on scene. They can also pass that out to the families when they're on scene with that information as well. We've actually worked on, through those events, when I was mentioning about the different events, we not only do law enforcement training, we actually have encouraged them to be at the events with the children. So anytime we've had youth programs, we've had a lot of interaction with them and the youth. We've actually encouraged them to come out, bring the canines, so that the youth or the children are familiar with them, familiar with the dogs, and understand that they're there to help them, not hurt them. Have a conversation. When we chalked the parking lots, they were out there chalking in the parking lots. They were actually, having conversation. Music was playing. They actually danced with the kids. So we just tried to bring all of them together to just build that rapport with them. And so we found that a lot of kids opened up to them. And now they see them out in public, they're like, hey, I remember you from school. Hey, I remember you from that event. So it's been really helpful to have them there. One of the things that we also connect them with is mental health, and some of the things that we're working on for next year to open up those lines is even bringing in some information for law enforcement on the suicide for their level. We know that they're not youth per se, but however, we want to keep them healthy so that they can take care of our youth. So we want to make sure that they get self-care as well and get the information that they need. So we've even reached out to even open those doors for them. You can go to the next slide. And as you can see, first responders, engagement matters. When we say those words, engagement matters, it matters to not only our children, but it matters to our families. It matters to our collaborative partners. In order for us to have a successful justice center, and as that justice center it's a one-stop shop. It's a one-stop shop for all victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, child advocacy, and elderly abuse that also will come into that play as well. But in that center, we want to be able to encourage that it's not only just working with the ones that's at that shelter or at that entity. We want to be able to put it out in the community that we're able to bring those resources to them. Through Resilient Georgia, we're able to go ahead and bring that to the schools, bring it to each entity, the sectors and all. Family Connections has been one of our biggest partners. So we have Family Connections, Unison Behavioral Health. Those are our two that we work with the most, and they work for all 6 counties. So the 6 counties we cover, of course, is Ware County, Coffee County, Bacon County, Brantley, Pierce, and Charlton. So those are the 6 counties that would actually be covered under that Justice Center. Trying to think if there's anything else I need to hit on here. The mental health aspect of the piece of it, one thing that they have definitely put into the Justice Center is we will have telehealth. So mental health, as we all know, a lot of staffing issues. Sometimes we may not always actually have a counselor that can actually be out into a program or come to a center. But telehealth is one thing that we have actually grabbed and said that we would like to have into the center. So that way that the families and the children can use telehealth as well when they come to the center for that aspect of it. We partnered up with the Roots program. Unison Behavioral Health has a Roots program, and that's an after-school program for their kids. And we just went out and actually worked with them with Adrian Peterson. He went out and met with the kids, and so they asked us if we could please come back and work with them on some other programs as well. So in that process, we asked, could we actually work with them, was also bringing law enforcement in on letting them meet some of the law enforcement, the K9s, and have a day with them as well with some, things that, they could maybe build that bridge and that gap. So anyways, you can move to the next slide. As you can see, for Waycross Area Resilient Georgia, we have quarterly and annual law enforcement first responder trainings. What we do on the quarterly is every quarter we get together, make sure that they have updates on any information that they need, whether especially on the domestic violence information, but not just domestic. And that's not where we stop. We also bring the self-care mental health. We bring up the as far as the 988 to make sure they have all the information that they need for anything new that the kids will need and anything new that they can take out in public and use. Make sure all the resources is up to date. Annually, we do the same thing. Annually, we actually do different topics. One of the things that we learned is strangulation is a huge issue in the state of Georgia. It's actually huge when it comes to youth. So that's one of the things that we focused on this past summer was strangulation and how to handle it and how to make sure that we get in contact with the right entities to get the investigations done so we can prosecute cases and contact and DFACs, and then also get the follow-up therapy that the children need so that they can further be able to handle it. Community partnerships with law enforcement, we build that gap. We're working on that every time we can turn and make a new partnership with them, whether it's an event, it's a meeting, whether we can step in there on a fundraiser or something for them, whatever we need to do. And then like including them in local, like the youth events we do and promote positivity. Every time we have something going on, I invite law enforcement to come and be a part of it. And they have been at the door, every time we've done something, they have committed to come and spend time with the youth in our community. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. And you can just read this quote here, or I'll read it to you. One of the highest priorities of the Waycross Police Department is youth outreach. Without the assistance of Resilient Georgia, we would fall short in the education of youth concerning gang prevention and anti-bullying. The Waycross Police Department's Junior Police Academy and Junior Police Auxiliary, our main educational avenues, lives in part because of Resilient Georgia. This is Tommy Cox, Jr., the Chief of Police here in Waycross Police Department. This is a picture of the Junior Police Academy, some of the students that we actually got to visit with them. That's at our Brantley County Junior Police Academy. We actually work with Waycross Police Academy as well. But these are some of the counselors that work with some of the smaller youth. And of course, we didn't put any of those pictures on here. But one thing that from gathering from that quote, and as it says for itself, being able to work and Resilient has made it possible that they're able to do more in the community for them to be able to reach more youth as well. So like I say, thank you for what you do, Resilient Georgia. Thank you for believing in us and allowing us this opportunity to continue what we do in our work in South Georgia.
Thank you so much, Heather. That was a very difficult question to answer in the chat, and I saw lots of good comments and such a big conversation to have, especially at this point in time. Next, we're going to hear from Resilient Chattahoochee Valley from Sydney Hoek. She's the project coordinator with the United Way of Chattahoochee Valley, and she's going to be talking a little bit about social emotional learning libraries. And I did just want to note to everyone, we were probably going to go a couple minutes over. We hope you can hang on. If you cannot, we are taping our webinar today, and we will send it out with the follow-up documents. And I will pass it over to you, Sydney. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily Ann. As shared, my name is Sydney Houk, and I serve as the project coordinator for Resilient Chattahoochee Valley with United Way of the Chattahoochee Valley. Our region through Resilient Georgia covers Muskogee County and the surrounding 11 counties. Over the past 2.5 years, we've been working in our region to improve outcomes for children and families by aiming to foster a resilient community where children can enter school ready to learn and are supported academically, emotionally, and socially, and graduate high school on time ready for college or career. To fulfill that mission, we collectively execute 3 equity-based strategies region-wide through Resilient Chattahoochee Valley to also include the Basics Chattahoochee Valley and Community Schools United. The Basics Chattahoochee Valley is an initiative that strives to give every child a great start in life through the 5 basics. We work closely with both the medical and early childhood sectors, educating them on the 5 basics principles, their connection to early brain development, how they serve as protective factors, and partnering with them to saturate parental systems of care that assist us in equipping parents with these principles to serve as positive childhood experiences in the earliest years. Community Schools United then serves children of school age and their families in select community schools within the education sector through coordinating transformative services into the fabric of schools to support the whole child, seeking to eliminate barriers to success so that every child has the opportunity to thrive. And through the support and alignment of those strategies, Resilient Chattahoochee Valley further seeks to increase knowledge and awareness of ACEs, trauma, and resiliency across all sectors through creating a common language and understanding around adversity, as well as implementing educational opportunities and develop partnerships that encourage that adoption of regional trauma-informed care practices. So today I'm just going to share with you or focus on one of the initiatives that we have implemented where each of these strategies are visible and support that shared vision, and that is the building of social emotional learning libraries throughout our region. On the screen, you're going to see samplings from our social emotional learning libraries, or SEL libraries as we call them. They're a collection of books, tools, and environmental considerations that support social emotional learning methodology. And that encompasses the process through which all children and therefore arguably adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals. Feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. And these are all really important milestones that impact each individual's ability to thrive, yet collectively and in comparison to the many competing priorities there are for our growing children, resources to support social emotional learning are relatively low. So in collaboration with Muskogee County School District and our Community Schools United strategy, Resilient Chattahoochee Valley was able to learn more and dive deeper into those competing priorities and partner to creatively address gaps in delivery through the building and implementation of the libraries. Currently, as I shared, our social emotional learning libraries are housed within 3 community schools in Muskogee County School District. But not only are they housed there, but they're under the direction of a dedicated staff member at the school who has received various trauma-informed care trainings that we've implemented, are there to help ensure their active and accurate use, manage tracking, maintain the inventory, and probably most importantly, effectively escalate cases to the necessary professionals on site as necessary. Through the added resources, our SEL libraries have bolstered the 15-minute school-wide SEL block that the district has mandated by aligning with the district's PBIS, or Positive Behavioral Intervention Systems, tiered approach, supported grade level counseling lessons, provided small group instruction, served as resources in individual interventions, and are often used for independent reflections as well. But before we dive deeper, I'll walk us through some of the samplings on the screen. So if we start with the books, you'll see 2 examples of books from the library. The first being The Bad Seed, which is a part of the Food Group series by Jory John. And it's a really cute series that helps kiddos digest, if you're into puns, their emotion in a really relatable way. But you'll also see Worry Says What by Allison Edwards, which with worry and anxiety being among the top mental health issues among children is a relevant choice to highlight. If we move to tools, you'll see the Better Builders Emotion magnetic figures on the right-hand side. These guys come with a bunch of different faces representing emotions, and children are easily able to act out or replay different situations, showcase emotions that they were feeling when they aren't able to verbally, or practice empathy by showcasing emotions on others involved. More towards the middle, you'll also see Let's Talk Learning Resource Cubes. These are probably one of my favorite tools in the libraries to get conversation moving and develop relationships both with and between students under the guise of a game. So there's a mix of higher and deeper level questions to answer depending on how the dice land. On one side of one of the dice is written, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live? And that's just an example. So if you would, I'll steal that from the dice. So just please answer that in the chat. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would you live? And I chose that as our question because I was taken by surprise during the use of the dice in one intervention when this question arose, and the answer was way more than just a conversation starter. It proved to be incredibly insightful to the reality of the child in front of me. My little friend answered the question with the response, Australia. And when I asked why Australia, I thought he was 8. I thought he may have said because his favorite animal lived there, because again, like many of you, I'm sure answered, it was meant to be a break from some of the deeper questions, just a conversation starter. But he shared he wanted to move there to get away from guns. He knew that Australia had strict gun laws, and it was a really profound moment that had tremendous impact, all due to a tool that helped bridge a gap between us, helping to forge a deeper relationship that led to further conversation and lended some insight into why we were sitting together in the first place. And I wish I had more time to let that sink in, but if we were to think about where we were physically sitting, that's where those environmental considerations come into play. Are the surroundings and environments where social emotional learning takes place conducive for that type of learning? Do they evoke comfort, peace, tranquility, and safety? Do they allow for those connections to occur and for exploration to happen? So you'll see some of the photos represent those spaces, things like affirmation stations and calm corners on the slide that are all designed to be spaces to acknowledge those considerations. And as we move to the next slide, we're going to further see some of the impact of the social emotional learning libraries. I do have a typo there. We have 3 SEL libraries. And through these libraries, you can see on the screen different data points we have collected to encompass interventions at all levels, including ones like pictured where it's class and grade based, all the way to individual interventions like in the story I shared. And the additional one that I got permission to share on the screen, a unique tool to one of the libraries, are pause and reflect sheets, again depicted in the bottom photo, that are utilized with students to determine how they are presenting at that given moment. So the student who filled out that particular sheet was removed from the classroom due to what was shared as disrupting behavior. And we can see that they ultimately chose the sad puppy as the way that they were feeling in that moment. And when the sheet prompted to explain why, the student wrote, "My grandma got killed." And so through that established partnership, the team with this SEL library in particular was able to determine that the student's grandmother did pass away, but from illness, something that was unknown at that moment. And the grief being experienced was in direct correlation to his behavior that had him removed from the classroom. This student was subsequently able to receive additional support like grief counseling and additional supportive services that address the concern of relating natural death to violence, linking to the concern we all seem to share when Philip referenced violence in schools earlier in the meeting. And I share that just to serve as another example of the impact beyond the numbers on the screen. There's more stories like this with each library and each resource. And it's for reasons like that we're eager to explore next steps with the library specifically. We're building another social emotional learning library to support all of Stewart County School District, a rural county in our region, with an added feature of a DEI shelf. And we are also integrating the libraries beyond the walls of schools with community partners, the first being a partner in the space of after school care. So we're eager to support SEL beyond traditional school hours. And to wrap us up on the last slide, you will see not only a resource we have created that serves as a list for starter SEL libraries, but also more information on where to learn more about our work and next steps beyond the libraries like Emily Ann shared. So dropped in the chat will be our Resilient Chattahoochee Valley website that houses on-demand trainings that are sector specific, training calendars, additional resources, and more about our collective initiatives that we weren't able to highlight today. But I just want to end by thanking Resilient Georgia for their support and for everyone tuning in for their time and care. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sydney. Next, we're going to be hearing, we're going to be talking about changing the conversation, and we'll hear from Archie, as many of you know them by, or the Atlanta Regional Collaborative for Health Improvement. Aviva Berman is the Senior Innovation Manager at Archie, and I would just like to sincerely thank everybody at Archie for teaching me so much about the work going on in my backyard, as well as what some of the medical and healthcare facing conversations are right now. Aviva?
Hi, can everyone hear me? Can I get a thumbs up? Okay, great.
Very good.
First time trying to pair my AirPods, but thank you so much, Emily Ann, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon now. I'm Aviva Berman, a Senior Innovation Manager here at Archie, and I'm here to talk about our big idea, which is inverting the burden. This idea is actually a strategy, and it's to help us and our partners in the metro area to reimagine the Atlanta healthcare landscape. Next slide, please. We are a small but mighty team with our new executive director, Jeff Smythe, and our team is growing with the past year, and we're here to kind of be here as a convener for 100+ organizations in the metro Atlanta area. What that means is we support and convene and collaborate with 100+ health systems, social support agencies, local and state leadership, anyone who wants to help move the needle on health outcomes in the metro area. We seek to create a coordinated system of care that centers the individual in need and those seeking to support them. So for example, someone in the community needs help, we're trying to support both them and the intake case manager. And I'll get into that in a moment. So next slide. back to the burden and how we intend to invert it with our programs and our coordinated services. This is what it can currently look like for a lot of folks in our communities. You know, you have the individual in the middle, and they have to navigate different resources in different areas at different times. Oftentimes, it's a burdensome process to get the resources and the services they need when it comes to employment, behavioral health, criminal justice, legal aid, social services, food and benefits, housing, of course, it's top of mind here in Atlanta, physical health, and transportation. So we at Archie are dreaming and have implemented a community resource hub to kind of invert that burden away from the individuals and those providing the services by implementing a community resource hub with a community health worker embedded at the base of this resource hub. Next, please. So with that in mind, with that kind of landscape in mind, we have committed partners. We've engaged and collaborated with these partners plus many more who are committed and ready to work. We are trauma informed, we are person centered, and we are working with community and state agencies that share these beliefs toward equitable access to these services. Again, Archie, we don't provide direct services, we just bolster and support and collaborate with those that do. Next slide, please. So back to this grand idea of the community resource hubs to place the patient, the person, the individual, the family at the center of all of this in order to achieve our invert the burden strategy. What this really looks like is we've engaged with 2 health systems, Mercy Care, a federally qualified health center with multiple locations in the metro area, and Grady, Atlanta's safety net provider health system. We are working with them by embedding community health workers at both outpatient clinics in order to better coordinate care. These community health workers work with patients who have chronic conditions and unmet social needs. So these health workers really serve as kind of the hand holder of this patient, helping them coordinate and navigate the web of resources that Atlanta has to provide within our partner network that we've created here at Archie. So there is bidirectional referrals, there are warm and hot handoffs from the community health worker to the partner agencies. There are reconnections when assistance is needed again. We've engaged these partner networks, which I'll show you in a minute, and they are highly engaged. They're in our resource hub. They will answer the phone. They will return our emails, and they will work on these mutual patients and clients together between the community health worker at these health systems and their partner agencies. And we, of course, track their data and their impacts over time. So we understand we have served hundreds of patients from these health centers, and we are tracking their A1C levels, their blood pressure levels, their weight, BMI, and certain outcomes that are related to their well-being. And what services are we connecting them to within our partner network? And are their needs being met? Are they finding housing? Are they getting hooked into employment? Are they serving as a resource to their family? Are they enrolling in benefits? So everything is being documented and synthesized and shared in an appropriate way. And this kind of helps us understand our impact in the metro area with this resource hub, so that not only can we help our patients and our clients and our agencies do better work, but we can promote, hey, this is a proof of concept, this works, let's expand, let's build the model and show you how it works. So next slide, please. This is the community resource hub that I've alluded to. So it's a beautiful image, but it really speaks to its truth here. So we have our transportation partner, MARTA, we have AVLF for legal services. We have the Community Food Bank for connection to food insecurity, Wholesome Wave Georgia for enrollment into benefits, SNAP, Open Hand for more in food insecurity, Open Doors and Shelters to Shutters, and HOPE for for housing, access to housing resources, First Step staffing. I am actually in their office as I speak for employment. And then, of course, Grady and Mercy for physical and behavioral health. And I think I saw a chat come through. How do you refer a patient to the navigators? Great question. We will reach out, thank you, Carrie, to connect about how to kind of build this network going further. Next slide, thanks. So that's the Community Resource Hub. That is one prong of our Invert the Burden strategy, of which we have many. It's been a very busy year. Right here, back to our coordinated services strategy, we want to streamline access to housing stability. So what does that look like? What does that mean? We've built business relationships and streamlining processes and so that we can, so that Atlantans can better access financial assistance to rental, mortgage, and utility relief dollars. So at the onset of the pandemic, there were millions of dollars at the city level, at the federal level, distributed in hopes to get to social service agencies, then in hopes to be dispersed to community members in need, those who are about to be evicted, who couldn't pay rent because they lost their job due to COVID. So we were witnessing the kind of the inability to really distribute those dollars in a fast, efficient, painless way. So Archie kind of stepped in, and we surveyed our partner agencies. We've surveyed those with lived experiences in trying to access these dollars, caseworkers, to understand what's going on here. Why is it hard to access these dollars? So we've engaged with these agencies. We've built our kind of proposed solution to this issue is that we need to devise a universal assistance application, and it's been drafted. And excitingly, we hope to launch this application for rental, mortgage, and utility assistance in mid-January. We have two pilot partner agencies who are ready to have the link on their website, host the application. And the idea here is, once again, inverting the burden away from the person seeking this service. After much research in 2021, we realized that it takes someone in need an average of 20 hours to receive 1 month's worth of rent on average. That's a part-time job right there. And you know they need the money because they're applying for it. So where is this time going? How do they access this time? And how can they better access these dollars? So we hope that through collaborating with these agencies that provide the rental assistance, there's one-stop shop. There's one place to apply for these dollars, and then Archie kind of serves as air traffic controller and matches the applicant with the appropriate agency that has the rental assistance dollars. So we had a soft launch this month, and it took folks on average 6 minutes to complete the application. So that's a far cry from 20 hours to accessing the dollars to 6 minutes to applying for the relief. So we hope to learn more when we do our official launch in January. So we have big hopes for interoperability and data warehousing. And the next slide, I believe, can kind of better, oh, not yet. So so this is our universal application that's been drafted, and 6 agencies intend to use this application as their sole rental assistance application. So no longer will someone have to go to 6 different websites to try and find dollars to make rent. They can just go to one place, put in their information once, ideally and aspirationally one day, submit their identification, their social security, their lease, their whatever else that makes them eligible for this program can be uploaded into a data warehouse. But that's more to come in 2023, and that's the next slide. Yep. So community interoperability. So this is the model that we're really aspiring to for both the Community Resource Hub and for rent, mortgage, and utility relief. It looks like kind of a crazy image, but if you focus on the cloud interoperability portal, we have this we will be working with Salesforce and our local nonprofit technology organization, TechBridge, to build this portal, this data warehouse. And this is what we aim to kind of kick off so that everything is more bidirectional and interoperable in the new year. So that's what we're aspiring to. Next slide, I'll wrap up. Archives, there's so much here I can't gloss over, but I'm keeping an eye on the time. This is something that we did earlier this year with our equity stories. We were able to, thank you, Carrie, please click this link. If you do anything with Archie today, click this link and learn more from what we were able to accomplish earlier this year. We did deep listening with community members of impacted community members who have experienced homelessness. And this process was rooted in the principles of respecting the speaker's sovereignty and valuing their expertise. We were focused on the system and how we could kind of change the system from engaging our partner agencies who also participated in the equity stories. And it was a wonderful process. And really the stories that came from this program informs our strategy to invert the burden in every way, whether it be the Community Resource Hub, preventing eviction, and other programs. We heavily relied on the stories that we learned from this program earlier this year. So please check out those stories and learn what you can. Next story. Oh, next slide. Next slide. Inverting the burden together. Please chat. How does your organization work to invert the burden for the communities you serve? And what does it mean to you to invert this burden? I look forward to learning from you all in the chat about that. We wanted to thank, of course, Resilient Georgia and the staff and our Round 4 grantee cohort for your support, guidance, and camaraderie. It's been so meaningful, and we love learning from you on a monthly basis, and thank you all.
Thank you so much, Aviva. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there, and we're so excited to leave you with Elijah Miranda. He's the Executive Director of the Vashti Center. He's going to be talking about Resilient Southeast Georgia and Thomasville, and they're raising awareness about children's mental health initiative.
Thank you, Emily Ann. And yeah, thank you everyone for hanging on. My name is Elijah Miranda, and so I'll be presenting on our work. First of all, just thank you to Resilient Georgia, everyone there, Emily Ann and Audrey and Neha and Lynn, who have been just such an incredible support system for us as we've kind of launched this initiative in Southwest Georgia. You can go to the next slide, please. So this is a little bit of our team here. And so Alex English is also on the call. She's our Director of Outreach and Training. Macy Sutton is not on the call. She's actually at a Connections Matter TOT training right now. So, and Sonia Vick, I believe, is still on the call and has just been an incredible support and is part of our steering committee to make sure that we are reaching the Southwest Georgia in the way that we want to. So next slide, please. So you can kind of see from the map, these are the counties that we serve. So very, very rural, southwest corner of the state. And really what's kind of driven us is that mission statement, helping communities to identify and prevent at-risk situations that children may face, creating a more trauma-informed community, to engage with children who may have experienced trauma while also raising awareness around children's mental health. And so our strategy, our goals for doing this is really a three-pronged approach. So we wanted to focus on providing trauma-focused trainings. One of the things that we identified when we first started doing this work, Vashti as an organization started providing more mental health services in the community. And so we hired more therapists, and we were able to bring on new clinicians and wanted to continue to provide professional learning opportunities. And so one of the things that we identified early on is we hosted a couple trainings, and every time we opened up those trainings to the community, they got waitlisted every single time. And so we identified that need for more professional learning opportunities in Southwest Georgia. And so we wanted to focus initially on those youth serving organizations. The second piece is advocating for children's mental health. That's one of the challenges that we saw. Just not a lot of advocacy, lots of stigma around children's mental health. A lot of people just not wanting to have this conversation, helping to maybe shine a light on what resources are available in Southwest Georgia. And then thirdly, promoting and raising awareness. We wanted to engage with community, and engage with the towns and the cities and the communities in Southwest Georgia just to help kind of like shine that spotlight on the work that's happening and just the need for services in Southwest Georgia. Next slide, please. So this is actually a slide just highlighting our year 2. So we are now currently in year 3. And so we actually have been offering a multitude of trainings to the community. And so we focused on, Connections Matter, which you've heard a few times today. That's one that's been presented and provided to many folks in our community, to VASHSI staff as well. And one of the coolest things that happened because of this work, the populations that we got to reach was actually foster parents. And so we were able to identify and work with foster parent associations in Southwest Georgia, but we were also able to present a Connections Matter at the AFPAG conference in Jekyll Island. So that was something that was pretty great. We offer 8 evidence-based trainings. And then down at the bottom there, you can see we also did an initiative around Children's Mental Health Awareness Month, where we placed green bows, which is the ribbon color for Children's Mental Health Awareness Month in May across 4 counties. That's something that we'll be looking to expand. And that was a great way, it's a great conversation starter. People would reach out to VASHSI and wanted to know more. We had the VASHSI logo on there. We had the Resilient Georgia logo on there. And so it was a great way to connect with community. And so people would be in their respective downtowns and be like, what are these green ribbons about? What are these green bows about? So it was a great way to help raise awareness. And then you can see there a little bit about a Guinness World Record breaking attempt that we went for in May of this past year. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So next slide, please. So we have really just focused on our Children's Mental Health Awareness Month efforts. This is a month in May where we just have just been committed to trying to reach as many people as we can around what we're doing around children's mental health, around training youth serving organizations, about that advocacy work, that awareness raising work. And so the expansion of awareness raising efforts in Thomas County. So that's where we were able to place 350 bows. The other towns and counties that we did that in were Decatur, Grady, and Mitchell County. We'll be looking to expand that effort in 2023. And then there's that little bit, that second bullet or second butterfly, focusing on that Guinness World Record attempt. And so I like to say that I see like the glass is half full. And so we did not break the Guinness World Record. We were like 30 people short. But it was such an incredible awareness raising event. There was so much publicity, lots of press. It was all over social media. And just like Emily Ann just said, we'll be planning to break it in 2023. And so, several TV news stations were there, several articles in the newspaper. And so it was great to have community come out and support that effort. The mayor of Thomasville actually read a proclamation declaring it VASHSI Day. And so it was just a really great event. And we blamed the weather because it poured down rain that day. So we're going forward in 2023. And then our professional learning and training, which continues to be our greatest focus and continues to expand as well. So we've engaged with organizations like Kate's Club, who has been a wonderful partner. And that's really, I think, what's been so great about the work that we've been able to do is being in a rural area, is that we need to partner with other organizations because there are so few organizations here. So partnering with organizations, having those collaborative partners has just been the way that has really driven our initiative in Southwest Georgia. Next slide, please. Okay, yep, so here we are. You can see the pictures of the bows. It's really great, again, initiative. We had one of our partners that we've been able to provide trainings for is a medical school in Moultrie, Georgia, which is Colquitt County. And that partnership began because of these bows. Someone was walking around downtown Thomasville, picked up one of these bows, Googled our website, reached out to us. And since then, we've actually provided 2 Connections Matter training to medical students at the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, which is located in Colquitt County. So they want more of our trainings. And so that's something that Alex is working on with that group to provide more training. So really cool how this really touched so many people, and really, and just people just going, well, what are these green bows about? So just, again, just having that as like a conversation starter was really neat. And so we're really excited about going to expand these efforts. Next slide, please. So here we are just talking about our training. So we have really focused on youth serving organizations because of the work that Resilient Georgia has focused on, and working with groups like the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, the school systems in Thomas County and Thomasville, Colquitt County, Brooks County, Mitchell County. These have all been incredible partners for Vash-Sci. And we're also part of the Region 10 CANIP committee as well. And so we're trying to get Connections Matter on the as one of the mandated trainings through DOE, because we feel like that's such an impactful training, because touches on obviously trauma and how it affects the developing brain, but also focuses on the importance of connections and the importance of communities and kind of knowing what resources are in your community. And so we continue to provide these trainings, identifying new coalition members. So through, as of right now, we've trained over 1,800 school counselors, foster parents, staff, youth, and community members since July of 2020. So really exciting. These are pictures from, I see pictures from the PCOM trainings and also our local Boys and Girls Club here in Thomasville, Georgia. Next slide, please. And there was supposed to be a short little video here. Unfortunately, I think that there was some issues with the playback. I believe that Alex or Audrey were going to paste the link so you guys can check that out. And so this was the world record-breaking attempt in May of 2022. And you can see just some of the pictures. It really was incredible that people came out in the rain. And that we were, just fell 30 people short. But again, for me, I see it as an opportunity to do it once again, to break that record, to have people in the community come out and have a conversation around children's mental health and why it's important to have these conversations and know what resources are available in your community. So you can see some of the feedback there from some of those participants as well. So next slide. So for year 3, continuing just to expand on those goals. And so the training, having opportunities to train in other counties with other organizations, connecting training opportunities to other sectors in our region. So working with law enforcement, which we've done a little bit of, but I feel like that's an opportunity there. The universities here in our area, I think, are another important partner, potential partner as well. We've also are looking to identify other evidence-based trainings that we can bring to our region. So as far as from a sustainability standpoint, we've identified new trainers and facilitators as well. And so that's something that we want to continue to grow so that these trainings can be facilitated all across our region. So something that we're really excited about. And then increasing our DEI efforts through the coalition. Continue to do work around advocacy. So the mental health ribbons, so making sure that we expand on that, focusing on other awareness months as well. So Child Abuse Prevention Month, which is in April, BIPOC Awareness Month. We've done some of that work already, and just kind of, again, just growing these efforts. And then you can see reattempting that Guinness World Record, which is going to be in May of 2023. And then obviously there's some other pieces there around prevention and intervention. We want to provide more interventions that are focused directly for youth. So we do offer teen mental health first aid. That's one of the trainings that we offer. So we're looking to identify new populations. We are going to pilot a version of StrengthsFinder with our children in our residential program at the Vashti Center that we're excited about, with 2 facilitators from Atlanta. And then looking at food disparities and how that relates to trauma and how we can address that and what kind of conversations kind of come from that. So the other really neat thing is, you know, just the network that's been opened up by Resilient Georgia and our connection with Resilient Georgia. Because of what we've been able to do, we've had other foundations reach out to us. We just found out last week that we were awarded a $100,000 grant from the Healthcare Georgia Foundation to expand our efforts and provide more of this work in Southwest Georgia, which we're really excited about. Next slide, please. And so here's our contact information. Again, I just want to say thank you so much to the group. I can tell you that following up all the amazing presentations today, since the beginning, it's always been an honor to be in the room and be a part of the conversation with this group, because we have learned so much. And you know, you just get ideas from the other grantees that you can bring to your region. And so thank you, Emily Ann, for again just having another wonderful general meeting where there's just so much information, and we're just thankful that we get to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Elijah. We're so grateful for all the work that you've been doing in your region and also across the state. You've done so many trainings and so much outreach. We're very grateful. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you also to Audrey, Neha, Cheyenne, Catherine, Jessica, all of our Resilient Georgia team. We're so grateful for all the work you all do every day. And I hope everyone has a very merry holiday season and have a great afternoon. Thank you so much.